Hey everyone, greetings. Today, let's take a little look at the last few days of 2025 and what the planets are telling us as we head into 2026. I'm Marina Orms here with your Astro perspective for Sunday, December 28th. Really, in the very last few days here of the year. And we are in this wrapping up phase of what has been very much an intense year of change, of shift, of new possibilities emerging, but also witnessing and experiencing the breakdown of what we can count on, what we can depend on. So much of that having to do with the placements of the outer planets, because remember, the outer planets give us that background vibe. The inner planets tell us what is unfolding on a day to day level. They change day to day, week to week, certainly month to month. And the moon, of course, changes every couple of days. So I love it how the planets give us like these time clocks of qualities that are with us in the universe around us. So the outer planets refer to the energies that change very slowly over time. The inner planets give us more of the rhythms of our day to day lives. So, when we take a look at the outer planets, zoom out a little bit and understand what's happening in the background, some major themes have been unfolding, have unfolded throughout 2025. So, as I've mentioned, we've had outer planets changing signs in a very unusual way, in the sense that they already change signs, very rarely. So each of the outer planets is in a zodiac sign for many years. So the sun, we know, and we know our birthdays and the zodiac signs because the sun goes through a zodiac sign. It goes through 12 every year, right? It goes through about one sign a month. Uh, so it moves through the zodiac in a year, but those outer planets move much slower through those zodiac signs. So we not only have it taking many years for the outer planets to change signs, but very unusually, we have all three outer planets changing signs around the same time. So this all began in 2023 and 2024 as Pluto shifted from Capricorn, where it had been for many years, into Aquarius, where it will be for 20 years about. So that was a big shift, and it took 2 years for it to complete that transition into Aquarius. Neptune and Uranus, the other two outermost planets, also beginning their shift this year. So both went into new signs. And will complete their transition into new signs next year. So not only is this a very compact period of time when we have these significant outer planet shifts, but all three of the outer planets are changing signs to go from earth and water signs into air and fire signs. So Pluto and Uranus both going from earth signs into air signs, and Neptune going from water sign Pisces into fire sign Aries. At the same time, Saturn is also going from water sign Aries into fire sign Pisces. So Saturn is not one of the outer three planets, but it's the next one in. It spends about 2.5 years in a sign. So it's at the same time, it's making its shift from water sign Pisces into fire sign Aries. So we have four outer planets going from water and earth signs into air and fire. And this is huge. This is huge in terms of how we experience life and the reality that is around us and the pace of life and all kinds of things. So earth and water, earth moves very slowly. Think, think glacial time. Think, of a tortoise, making its way across wherever tortoises go. The desert, maybe. I don't know. I guess they need water. Depends probably on the species. But the point is, they move very slowly. And so we're going from that sort of like a comfort level of feeling that when things move, it takes time. It takes time for that change to happen. Takes time for things we want to put in place to really be implemented. It takes time. There's a process. You have to go through all the steps. That's what we're used to. That's what Earth energy is like. And Neptune being in Pisces has been very, very watery also. So we also have this sort of nebulousness. This, I don't know, maybe I'll try something, but, I don't have clarity yet. And so it can be confusing and really just kind of dreamy. And we can be in our imagination, our dream, but we're not really like seeing how to move on something or how to put it in place other than with that earth energy that we see as and feel as being something that really takes time. So the difference here is with all 3 and 4, if you include Saturn, planets moving from and Jupiter, Jupiter in 2026 will also be moving from Cancer into Leo. So that's another water into fire sign. But Jupiter stays in a sign for about a year. So that's, I guess, just another piece of all of this. But anyway, we're shifting into the air and fire energy, which, as you can imagine, is much more rapid. So suddenly, things that took a whole lot of steps and a process, and, I'm going to start by doing this, but then this has to happen. If we're used to that, we're not used to, you push a button and it happens. And that is more what the vibe is with this air and fire energy. It doesn't mean that we have, it doesn't mean we can make anything happen anytime, right? I mean, that's part of the process of being human. But what it does mean is that the way in which change happens will be different. It will be more instantaneous, for better and for worse. So when things happen instantly, it's harder to control them. It's harder to put guardrails on it. The guardrails we are used to from the past will and may not apply anymore. So if you think about a guardrail on a road where you're driving cars, and that guardrail is totally appropriate to provide a barrier from a car, that might go off the road, or if it's a steep area or something, that guardrail serves a purpose, and it keeps the cars, and maybe it reminds the drivers where the edge is. But if you take that car and turn it into a rocket ship, those guardrails are meaningless, totally meaningless. So if you can think metaphorically about how that might look in our lives, the things that used to provide structure and stability and containment and clarity and help us understand how things work, what the steps are, where the boundaries are, what the rules are, all of those things could potentially be out the window. So we have to be thinking ahead. We have to be thinking about what we want and what's important to us and what is meaningful to us and what we care about, because those old guardrails that used to provide that boundary and that rule are changing. And the technologies and even the social glue and fabric, the ways that we interact with each other could be changing. They already have, right? So where we used to have to meet with people in person, and then we had telephones, and then now we have instant computer video conferencing, and and now you don't even have to meet with somebody in person to you know, to have a conversation and see and really feel like you're there with them. So technology is changing, and those technology changes will accelerate. I think that we will really be confronted intensely and in short periods of time with needing to figure out how to navigate and negotiate rules. Again, how do we create guardrails for the rocket ships where the guardrails for the cars on the road aren't going to work for us anymore? So it's really a reimagining and a re-envisioning. Not all of it bad, not all of it good, right? So instead of thinking in terms of like, is it going to be good? Is it going to be bad? Is it going to be okay? Are we all going to, meet our demise? Don't think in those terms. Think in terms of how the energy around you is changing and how you can work with that and how you can be ahead of the curve by understanding that communication not only is more rapid, but could be far more effective at getting what you want. So maybe you need to ask, right? Maybe you need to ask for what you want. Maybe instead of assuming it's going to be a long process, you just need to say, hey, this is what I want. This is how I want it to be. And things might shift more quickly than we are used to. So we can innovate. We can bring in new ideas. We can think in new ways, have new perspectives. And really, the sky is the limit in terms of how we might harness that energy, how we might think about relationships and communities and society, and how we negotiate our relationships with the one another, but also how we take care of our needs in society. And Jupiter's in Cancer, all about caring. So we're also thinking about that currently with that Jupiter retrograde in Cancer energy. So bringing it back to this week and how we work with this, how we can think about ourselves at this particular moment as we are leaving 2025 and entering 2026. So we had those outer planets, Neptune, Saturn, and Uranus, during 2025, all stepped into the fire and air signs from the earth and water signs. And Saturn and Neptune went into Aries, Uranus went into Gemini. So again, that was big changes already in 2025. And then they went retrograde back into the earth and water signs, where we are like having this final chance to do the imagining and put the things in place physically with the earth, right? So structures, containers, what's going to help ground us as we move forward, what matters to us in the bigger picture, what is the dream, how can we imagine the future in positive ways. And so notice how all of this always comes back to the self. It always comes back to you and your relationship with the world around you and how you see yourself and your role in that world. So if you can even a little bit shift your thinking from here's how the world is and how it's impacting me, or how I might be worried about how it's impacting others, and really shift that way of thinking, shift it to how can I do something? How can I be engaged? How can I contribute my positive energy to my community, to the people I care about? And so being socially, forming and reinforcing those social bonds with others, really, really important. But also, and just being actively engaged in your community, because at the local level, and I hear this over and over from the thinkers who are helping us navigate these times, is that what you do at the local level is really so much more important and impactful than you realize. So it's old thinking, actually, to expect the centralized authority, be that government, be that, patriarchy, be it whatever, however you see a system as having a hierarchy or a centralized authority, the idea of having a boss, all of that stuff goes back to this idea of kind of a patriarchal father figure who is going to take care of you, provide for you, defend, the borders of the territory where you live, all those things. And what you can see happening now as that whole system breaks down, which, by the way, shifts with Pluto going from Capricorn into Aquarius, that old patriarchal, hierarchical system of looking to some sort of authority, which we can equate to a father figure in a patriarchal system, right? The father figure or the government or the system, or what we sometimes call the man, right? The thing that is supposed to be defending and protecting us and providing for us is not doing that role, not so much, right? So what does that look like with Pluto and Aquarius? It's pushing us to say, okay, how do we take care of one another without that centralized system that gives us a kind of security, but also demands that we give away our power in the process, right? You trust that centralized authority, whatever it is, or the government or the system. So it's really bringing the power back to the self, to the individual, to the communities, to the people, and how we negotiate and decide, what do we want? What matters to us? So you have that rebellious energy of Aquarius, but you also have that community building aspect of it. So, in other words, getting engaged and involved at the local level is very, very powerful. And it's what we're being asked to step up into at this time. So that means, obviously civic engagement and sort of your traditional volunteering in your community or getting involved in groups or whatever that might look like. But it also means having positive social relationships, because that's the fabric of the community, right? So so whether that looks like bringing food over to your neighbor who's in need, or having playing cards, having those social relationships, having coffee, like the conversation aspect of it is going to be even more important as we move forward. Uranus in Gemini means that how we will connect as human beings with one another is through our communication. So conversation and networking and things like that, and is really we may have thought of it as sort of insignificant when we when we socially sort of moved into more of the nuclear family kind of vibe decades ago. We can shift that back into more of a community centered mentality, and how can we be the village, and how can we be there for one another, and what does that look like? And when we are engaged and care about things that are going on in the local level, we can have ultimately, and I don't know what this will look like, but we can recreate our ideas of what government is for and how it's supposed to function and how it supports people. So those are some thoughts. Now, bringing it back again, I'm going to try again here, bringing it back to the end of 2025. What we have is Saturn and Neptune in late Pisces, both direct now. Both planets are direct, which means they're moving closer to each other again. While they were retrograde, they were moving farther apart after they came really, really close over the summer of 2025. They came very, very close to each other in Aries, and then they both went retrograde, began moving further apart. So what's happening now is they're both in late Pisces and moving closer to each other. So they're heading toward their conjunction that will be in February of 2026. And in January 26th of 2026, Neptune goes into Aries. And then in February, Saturn goes into Aries, and then they join up together in mid-February. So what we have right now as 2025 comes to a close, and maybe this helps you focus some of your celebrations or rituals or intentions, or however you think about that for the end of the year, to remember that this is a last chance, right? This is both planets going back into that water sign of Pisces. Not only is Pisces a water sign, it's also the end of the zodiac. It is the point of transcendence and also loss. So we're losing the old forms. We're releasing, we're letting go of how we have counted on systems and structures and ways of understanding from the past. But what's really exciting is that we are getting ready to birth new systems and structures. And that will be happening with Neptune and Saturn in Aries, continuing on as Neptune remains in Aries. So this is the chance, in other words, to really support yourself in releasing, to allow yourself to let go of what you have been attached to, what has given your life meaning in the past that maybe is not going with you into the future, right? Sometimes we have to release things and let go of something that gives us comfort in certain ways. So old habits, old patterns, even physical objects, space, changing your space, changing the items and the objects, cleaning, clearing, all of that stuff, just getting rid of old energy. This is a perfect time for doing anything that facilitates that kind of release and letting go. Because what we're doing is we're preparing for the rebirth, and we want to clear space. We want to connect also with the dream, with a vision, what is true and right and meaningful, what we care about in that bigger picture. So really taking that time to let yourself imagine, to let yourself think big, to connect with what breathes life into you, right? What is going to breathe life into you for the next 35 years and, and beyond? Because as Saturn and Neptune come together, this is a 35, 36-year cycle. The last one was in 1989 in Capricorn. And so this is the reset point. This is the new beginning. It's not only is it in Aries, fire sign Aries, sign of new beginnings, but it is also 0 degrees Aries. You cannot get more new beginnings than that. I've got a little light on my I don't know, it's coming through the window, so thank you, sun. Anyway, 0 degrees Aries. You cannot get any more new beginning than that. So this is baby energy. It's the energy of brand new, of infants, of birth, rebirth, new identities, new directions, new ways of being, and all, anything new, brand new beginnings, start new projects, start new things, see yourself in new ways, all of it. And that reset point that we're heading into in 2026, we can best prepare for it now by imagining, that bigger picture of meaning, connect with what our hearts want, with what's most important to us, and really let ourselves imagine in big ways what the dream is, what we care about, what we want to see. And that will help us be clear once we hit that Aries rebirth energy, what we want to infuse the energy and the action and the new directions and the new beginnings with, how we want that to unfold. So we're letting go of anything that isn't going with us into that future, and simultaneously imagining what that future can look like as we prepare for it. So this is our chance. We have a few weeks here right now, just under a month until Neptune goes into Aries and Saturn follows soon after. So that is one of the main things happening. We also have coming up on January 3rd a full moon in Cancer. So we've got Mars and Venus now in Capricorn with the sun. We've got Mercury this week joining those Capricorn planets. So we'll have in time for that Cancer full moon, sorry, not Capricorn sun, Cancer moon. We'll have all three inner planets in Capricorn. So also a great time to plan, to strategize, to put things in place that will create structure and support you moving forward. So be clear about your intentions. But again, have a sense of lightness, because there is so much you don't know. This is a new beginning. This is we're going to enter into with beginner's mind. And as we step forward, there's a lot we're going to learn through the process. So you don't have to have it all figured out, but you can put stuff in place that helps you feel supported on your journey. You know, what do you want to send with yourself so that you remember you're cared for, you have what you need. So those are some things to think about. And I think I'll end it there. As we enter into 2026, clear on your intentions and willing to discover where they're leading you, right? Not attached to how that's going to show up or turn out, but in wonder, with that wide-eyed sense of wonder, of having a beginner's mind, being brand new and ready for the journey, ready to discover what comes next, but with clarity about why you're here. All right. Thank you so much for being here. I'm Marina Orms, and you can learn more about me and book a reading with me at astrologyheals.com. I also have a member site, transformationalastrology.com. I am doing mini readings for 2026. So that is an option to see your big picture, your highlights for 2026. Simply book a time on my calendar, and I send you the mini reading. I do the mini reading for you based on your own chart at that time and email it to you. And if you are a paid member at transformationalastrology.com, you get $10 off the mini reading. They are $45. Great gift for yourself or someone else. Check it out. And thanks again. I will see you next time with more astrology for unshakable self-care. Bye for now.